Well, take me back to the trade itself to bring Mark McGwire to St. Louis. Does that deal get done if it's not you and it's not Tony kind of involved on this side of it?
Well, that's a good question. I think it may have gotten done, but actually at the time, I don't know if he had to give us permission. He probably did. Probably had to give us permission. But I think you're right. It wouldn't have gotten done. But also my relationship with Sandy Alderson and Billy Beane was actually involved in it also. He was assistant GM at the time. But it was a lengthy discussion, negotiation. Went on for most of July. And I think it was, I don't remember the exact date, but it was right at the end of July when we made the deal. And I was in Philadelphia with the team. Jerry Walker and I were dealing with Sandy and Billy, and it was quite a deal. Tony was, as you can imagine, ecstatic when I went to the ballpark. I actually had to call him or go to the ballpark. The trade wasn't announced yet, but it was made during the game. So I had to go pull T.J. Matthews out of the bullpen and let him know that he was being traded. So, but it was like a marathon deal. But it was you're right. It was a deal that wouldn't have got done. And the main reason I think Mark decided to stay was because of his relationship with all the people that were in St. Louis at the time, with Tony and Dunk, Barry Weinberg, Dave McKay, and myself. So it was an interesting process.
Was there ever a time in those trade talks where you were on the phone with Mark and said, trust me, you're going to like it here. Trust me. Just say yes to the deal. Do you remember talking to him directly?
No, I don't. I don't think I did. That would have been tampering. So I'm pretty sure I did. But I just knew it was really the way people thought we were crazy doing it. But we needed a slugger. We needed a guy who could drive in runs and really be an impact on our club. And because of my relationship, I was with Mark from the time we drafted him in Oakland all the way up until we acquired him in St. Louis. And there was, at the time, I kind of looked at the market, figured out who needed first baseman in 97 and 98. And the only club I thought, and also where I thought Mark might end up going, because he was a free agent at the end of that year, the only other team I was concerned about was the California Angels. They were the California Angels at the time. And Bill Bavasi was their general manager, who was a good friend of mine, ended up working for me for a few years. And he told me he was really disappointed because they thought they had him. And but I think, again, it just all had to do with the relationship with Tony and Dunk and Barry and everybody that Mark stayed in. And, we signed him before the season was over to an extension. And again, I think there were two things really that I looked at. Number one, the relationship that Mark had with all those people. Plus, I know Mark loves baseball. He always loved baseball. And we played in Oakland all those years, and, he had a great fan base. And I knew once he got to St. Louis and saw the fans and the reaction, the reception he'd get there, that he'd fall in love with the place. And that's exactly what happened.
What do you remember about 98? I feel like it was spring training when the talk started, like, hey, this guy might be able to do it. I think Fox even sent Joe Buck to Jupiter for an early season interview to kind of talk about it. Do you remember it being a topic even at the beginning of 98 that, hey, maybe this could be the year?
Well, a little bit, but, we were more focused on getting the team ready, quite honestly. But, I really didn't start seriously thinking about it until after the season started and saw the prolific rate that he was hitting home runs at, and then also with Sammy.
And then it just sort of picked up steam that summer to the point where they opened the gates early for batting practice. People wouldn't leave their seats if McGwire was up. Give people an idea that weren't there in the midst of it all, how much of a phenomenon. And you're used to seeing teams get great support, but it really became the fans were there for 4 or 5 at-bats, and that's all that mattered.
Yeah, no, you're right. First of all, we'll start with spring training, Mark, batting practice. People would come, and we had to end up opening the gates early. Mark Lamping, who was our team president at the time, decided to open the gates early so people could come and see Mark take his batting practice, his BP. And it was a show in itself. And So that was something that, I mean, we had thousands of people show up for batting practice, which normally might have, if you had 100, that was a lot. But when he would come to bat, nobody, like you said, nobody would leave their seats. And they stayed. If they knew he was coming up the next inning, they'd wait to go to the concession stand or the restroom and until he had his at bat. It was an incredible time, and just the atmosphere, the electricity through the ballpark when he came to bat was incredible.
How did you see the pressure affect him? Obviously, in my media world, we were around him a lot. We weren't his favorite people. Sammy sort of played the affable, lighthearted one, where Mark was more intense. Do you think it was just immense pressure, and did you ever really kind of see it or even talk about it with him?
Yes, in both cases. I saw it, and we talked about it, and he knew it was part of the game. He knew it was part of what was going on, but it was just, he came from Oakland where he had very little media attention or fan base, and I think he was just overwhelmed by all of it. The people that wanted his autographs. He had to set a certain amount of time every day to go in the back room and sign autographs for different charities and different people that needed things. But the media, especially as the race went on later in the season, it just got crazy. And Mark's a pretty down-to-earth, simple guy and very modest guy, and he didn't like the attention, but he knew it was part of the game and part of what was going on, and he dealt with it. But it was definitely tough on him, I could tell.
Do you get the sense now that he's more at peace with that season and how it all played out? Like, can he enjoy it more now, looking back, do you think?
I think so. I think we all kind of enjoy our, what happened in our careers looking back, because at the time you're so wrapped up and you're so focused on what you're trying to get done that you don't have time to enjoy it sometimes. And I'm sure he, especially with his boys now, is getting a chance to relive that. And this special that ESPN is doing is going to be, I'm sure it's a source of pride for him, and with his children, his whole new family that he has. He actually married a St. Louis girl, and I think this is something that he's certainly going to enjoy.
How vivid is that Labor Day weekend where you had 61 and then you get to Monday, and basically you're leaving town. So if we're going to see 62 in St. Louis, it had to happen. It really was, in spite of the critics, in spite of some of the other things that went on, it was a pretty magical weekend, wasn't it?
It was incredible. It was just, the atmosphere again was, it was like a playoff game every day. It was like a playoff game, like a World Series game or something. And it was just the excitement, I had butterflies, just, my stomach, just hoping that he would do it in St. Louis. And, it was just, it was a magical time. And when I remember we went to, his family was in town, and we went to the Old Warson Country Club for dinner that Saturday night or Sunday or whatever it was afterwards. And he was so relieved. It was basically just, Tony and Mark and his family, his parents were there, and my wife and I, Sue and I, and it was just a great time. I still have a picture in my office here of that night, and it was just, you could just see how he just was finally able to relax a little bit. But then the pressure built up again as he was trying to get to 70.
After his career, Mark admitted to the PEDs and explained his reasons for doing them. Some people look at that and say they don't consider that home run summer, that chase, to be legitimate. I think for a lot of folks that I've heard from in St. Louis, at least, they say you can't undo the memories I had. How do you view that in terms of history, with what Mark did say he did do and why he did it, as opposed to the memory of that whole summer, that whole season?
Well, I think I understand. I give him tremendous amount of credit for admitting to it and talking about it, where most other people won't and haven't. And, I think that it bothered him. But I believe that, you look at his rookie year in Oakland, he hit 49 home runs. This guy, it wasn't something that just all of a sudden happened. I think what it allowed him to, made him capable of doing is hitting the ball further than maybe he would have. I think he still would. He was a great hitter. I mean, that year, I remember Tony talking about it. I'm sure you've talked about it too. He let him play that last game, and I don't think he was going to. And then because he was at 300, and he ended up hitting 299. But the guy who was a 300 hitter with 70 home runs and 100 plus RBIs. This guy was a great hitter, a great player. He's one of the best hitters I've ever seen. And sure, it helped him. Some of it, I think, a lot of it, I think, was helped him with the recovery of injuries and so forth. But I think, again, like people say, you can't erase the memories. It was so much fun, and at the time, nobody cared. It was the greatest thing that happened to the game of baseball at the time. It brought the game of baseball back to the country. It brought Cardinal fans back to the ballpark. We started drawing 3 million fans, and I think they have most every year since then. And I look at that. A lot of people ask me, what was the best trade you ever made? And I always point to that one because of the significance it had for the game of baseball, but also for the franchise in St. Louis, the Cardinals. And it brought it back, and it's one of the most historic and traditionally great franchises in baseball, and iconic franchises. And now it's back to where it should be. And it's just, I take a great source of pride in that for myself and what all the people that we worked with there.
The only wish maybe would be that at the end there of the career in St. Louis, if he'd stayed healthy, and that's probably his regret about the whole career, but had he had just a little more health, he might have had an even longer St. Louis run. I mean, it was short but sweet for him, I'm sure, but it at the end he kind of broke down. I'm sure people like you and Tony wish he'd only been healthy. Maybe there would have been a longer run here.
Definitely. It would have been fun. I mean, he left a lot of money on the table that last year. He turned down a contract for, I don't remember what it was, several $1 million. And he just, and that, again, that shows you the character of the man, because he just did feel he could compete and perform up to his ability. And he didn't want to be embarrassed. He didn't want to do something that he wasn't capable of doing, wasn't living up to his contract. So I give him a lot of credit for that also.
How much did Tony have to kind of not only manipulate the lineup to get him some real at-bats instead of being pitched around? I think he hit him second for a while. But also, as we know, Tony kind of played the game where he probably called it bullshit if they didn't pitch to him, and he was letting the other teams know, hey, we're going to pitch to your stars, you pitch to our stars. That people kind of forget. I think Mark had 162 walks that season.
Yeah.
How much of a battle was it to get him to see pitches he could hit?
It was tremendous. And, Tony is the master at, putting his lineups together and managing a game. And he always seemed to make the right moves, but, insert him in the right place in the lineup and do the things that were necessary to get him the ability to achieve that goal.
I think if anything, what will come out of this, and I haven't seen the preview, we're going to talk to the director, but maybe the Mark that some of us on the media side saw on a day-to-day basis, we considered grouchy or crabby. And then years later, I would say, when he came back as the hitting coach, I found a different guy. And it was 100% different. And I think people watching now, maybe that didn't get to know him or only saw some of the snippets on TV, I think they're going to see a more relaxed McGwire who maybe, like we said earlier, kind of appreciates all that went on.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy, a fun guy. When he was coaching for San Diego, and when I was in Cincinnati, when they traveled to Cincinnati, I'd take him out to lunch every time they came to town, and we always had a great time. He and Skip Schumacher, I'd take him to lunch, or we'd get together for a glass of wine after the game or something. And he's a tremendous person. And I wish people maybe it'll come out in this documentary, but see what kind of a great guy. He's a great family man, and loves his kids and his wife, and that's his whole life now. He gave up coaching and baseball, which I know he loved, to spend more time with his young family. He's got, I think, 5 young kids now, and so I think that's another tribute to the character of the person.
And then on a personal front, you mentioned this earlier, is sort of your legacy with McGwire, kind of that season did kind of get the franchise the bounce back it was looking for? I know 99 you guys didn't win, but it did seem like fan base wise, 96 you guys won, but did it really kind of trigger, you think, what became a great run for you and the Cardinals?
I believe so. I think that was the stimulus that we needed to get. I look at it this way, Martin. I might be wrong. Bill DeWitt might tell you differently, but I looked at the fact that we were able to increase attendance as much as we did. It allowed us to increase our payroll to add the right parts to our team. And Bill and the ownership of the Cardinals were very gracious to allow us that ability to operate the way we did all those years, to make the final moves at the end and to trade deadline moves and so forth that made us the championship caliber club we were for so many years.
Final thought, Walt, as we sit here now, still hoping that the owners, the players get something done. What's your view as an executive? Are you hopeful? Do you everybody kind of says, oh, something will get done. Do you still think that's possible?
Yes, I believe so. I'm obviously not directly involved in it, but I talked to a number of people that seem confident that something Martin, I look at it this way. They cannot not play this year. I mean, we have to play baseball, because if football is going to play, if hockey and basketball are going to play, and it all seems like they are in college football, it would be a disaster if we didn't get this worked out. And I think they will. I think you'll see in the next week or so that they'll get a deal worked out where we'll get the season started and hopefully get enough games in to make it worthwhile and have a nice playoff season. But I think I do believe we'll play.
And in our next visit, Walt, we'll rank them from the Edmonds. The Edmonds will call me bitching now that you said McGwire was a better trade. We got Edmonds, we got Renteria, we got Roland. You think about it, one day we'll rank them all.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'm sure Jim will have something to say.